We never turn it off. So what's happening right now, you manifested it to happen for some reason. A lesson could be a lesson. It could be this is part of how you're going to connect with somebody later, which is the divine oneness, our universal law of divine oneness, where we're all connected. So it's like doing this one thing could be uncomfortable and weird for you at the time, but it actually introduces you to somebody you need to know 5 years from now.
Welcome to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner, a show about shifting our individual and collective beliefs on what is possible for the future of humanity. As our understanding of how our reality continues to shift, we are at a point of reunification between science and spirituality. What does the world look like when we break free from the generational trauma that has kept most humans playing small for thousands of years and step into our full power as the co-creators of this reality? I always ask that you keep an open mind with this podcast. Ask yourself what resonates with my truth at this time and what does not. Respect your intuition, but see if you can get through the whole show, because there might be that little nugget buried deep in the conversation that unlocks something for you. Welcome back, everyone, to Changing the Channel. I have a wonderful guest today. She is a spiritual leader. Her name is Suzy Wraines, and she's a business foundation and trauma energetic coach. She helps entrepreneurs heal while building sustainable businesses. So welcome to the show, Suzy. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. And this is such a fascinating topic and something that I've experienced personally myself. And I've always had this vision or this idea that the entrepreneurial pathway is also so much a part of the healing pathway, whether that's spiritual healing or just personal development. But what better way to truly see who you are than to put yourself through one of the biggest challenges that you could probably face in your lifetime. So, kind of talk us through a little bit of how you came to this understanding and what is that link between healing trauma, healing, spiritually, both in this lifetime and other lifetimes, and starting a business on the planet.
I love this question, and I'm so excited to be here because it was my own personal journey that brought me to this realization. Before I did trauma energetics and had my own healing journey, I knew I came from childhood developmental traumas. I knew that, like, cognitively, and understood it, but I didn't know how to resolve it. And I went to, and I have a business degree, worked in corporate. I joined the Army, I was a medic in the Army, was served a year in Iraq, came home with massive PTSD, and thought, okay, I just need to control my environment and then I'll be okay. I was getting triggered at work. So when I left the Army, I went into veterinary medicine and I was treating animals instead of people, but still trauma events, surgeries, a lot of stuff happening. And I thought, well, I'll just control my environment and then I'll be fine. So I'll just do my own business. And then I can make the rules. I can come and go when I want. I don't have to worry about anything. And I was so wrong. That wasn't what I needed. Internal healing. And I didn't know that. So when I started my coaching practice, it was all about doing masculine energy. I'm just going to do. I'm going to do the structure. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to show people how to start a business. I'm going to give them all the tools and what they need to do. Very much doing, not realizing that I had underlying trauma effects in my nervous system that were keeping me from moving forward. So I had all of the things to do, the to-do list, and yet nothing was moving in my business. I wasn't getting clients. And there was this, I kept feeling like I was hitting this roadblock. This wall would just go up and I'd run into it. I'm like, I'm doing everything that they say to do to start a business, to do the things. What is happening here? And I was introduced to a hypnotherapist, and I did some timeline therapy with her. And that opened me up to the awareness of spirit and how it comes together with what we're physically doing in this world and what we're physically experiencing. And I was like, okay, there's something here that I definitely need to look closer at. So, of course, now me looking back, I'm like, I know my spirit guides guided me to the place where I needed to be, I met Kimberly Ward, who is the head of Somagetics, and she teaches trauma energetics coaching. And it's a combination of energy healing with the physiology of our nervous system. It's actually the two together. And I was like, huh, I've never heard of this before. And I come from a medical background, so physiology made sense to me. Nervous system, fight, flight, or freeze, trauma, that makes sense. But I didn't understand the energy side. And I was kind of disconnected from that piece of it. So I went through their program and had my own awakening, my own healing happening, and realizing that we're energy beings, we're divine beings having this human experience. But what happens in trauma when you're developing as a small human between 0 and 7 years old, you're learning to navigate based on your nervous system. Your nervous system is your guide. It's basically saying this is safe, this is not safe from perception of an event. And what I realized is that as a business owner, I was constantly getting triggered. So I was throwing up the wall. I was defending myself energetically. So it was like, I want clients, but I'm going to defend myself because I have this trauma that happened that said it was too scary to do that. People that procrastinate. So if you don't know that you have trauma interacting with you as a business owner, I like to ask you, what are the things you are challenged by? Do you procrastinate? Do you avoid things? Are you a person who wants to be in control? Taking control is a trauma response. It's actually a defensive pattern. So I learned about these defensive patterns in our nervous system that cause us to have certain behaviors. And once I recognized it, I was able to work with a healing coach, a trauma energetics coach, to identify where that happened first and realizing that it was trapped in my nervous system, being able to release that. And then things started to happen in my business. It was like almost like magic, but I don't like to use the word magic, but I energetically was open instead of being closed off. And I realized at that moment, I was like, this is the missing link for entrepreneurs who come in. They come in, I want to start a business. I want to do this thing. And they don't realize they're going to be faced by every single challenge along the way that if they haven't dealt with it, it's going to, and you're smiling, it's like, it brings it up to the surface and your nervous system has a response. And it's fight, flight, or freeze. I'm either going to fight or I'm going to run or I'm going to freeze and not do anything at all. So you can ask yourself as an entrepreneur, where are these things showing up? Because it's most likely a trauma response happening energetically. I like to use the example of bookkeeping. Through my healing journey, I did my own bookkeeping. I was a brand new business owner doing my own thing, taking care of everything. But in my mind, I wanted to manifest more clients. I'm like, I want to get more clients. So I'm like meditating. I'm going to get more clients, I was not getting clients because energetically, I didn't want to do more bookkeeping. More clients means more bookkeeping. Business grows, more bookkeeping. So energetically, I was holding on to, I was basically defending myself from having more clients, but I was thinking I want more clients. I hired a bookkeeper and I got 3 new clients.
There you go.
I removed that energetic block that I didn't realize was there. Again, a lot of this is happening subconsciously, so we don't know that that's what's happening. And this is where I stepped in and went, oh, wait a minute. Now that I know what's happening, then I know where to go. Now I can help other people. So I can actually coach other people. And I ended up doing their whole program to learn how to do the energy coaching. So how to sit with somebody and allow them, because we already know everything. We know everything we need to know. We are connected to one source. We have all the answers, but we have to go inside and we have to ask the hard questions. We have to be willing to let the things go that no longer serve us once we know they're there. But if we don't know they're there, we can't let them go.
The journey to finding myself started with a shift in how I viewed my health. That is why I am proud to partner with Purium, the transformation company. What if you could support your health with a system designed for today's challenges? Purium is more than a supplement company. It's a solution for regenerative health. Their whole food products include the only clinically proven glyphosate detox, helping you eliminate the toxic buildup caused by modern farming. Pair that with Beyond Organic superfoods and the most efficient source of protein on the planet, and you've got a powerhouse combination to build muscle improve digestion, and fuel your energy levels, all while promoting deeper sleep. Plus, Purium is mission-driven with planetary health in mind. They're proud to lead the way in a plastic-free movement using biodegradable packaging as much as possible. True health freedom starts here. Experience the power of this regenerative healing system for yourself and witness your own transformation take place. You get 60 days to try it, and if you truly don't feel any benefit, you get fully refunded. I have personally been using the daily Core 4 products and have noticed an increase in my energy and the depth of my sleep. Use the link in the descriptions to get started today and receive at least $50 off your first order over $75. Right. Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to kind of frame that journey, and to help people understand, especially entrepreneurs that got into a business. Maybe they didn't know exactly what they wanted. They really enjoyed doing something, or it was just an opportunity that showed up for them and they took advantage of it, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs tend to happen. Like, they're in a business, they're working in a business, or they have a business mentality. They see an opportunity, they jump on it. Maybe it's not perfectly in alignment with who they're meant to be or what their purpose is, but it's a means to an end. You know, the idea that the business is going to provide them enough freedom for them to be able to do what they want to do. But that business won't create freedom unless they have healed themselves and are able to let that business be a sustainable part of their life. And that is where I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of run into these issues, and then they get stuck, and 5 years down the line, they're still just kind of getting off the ground, or maybe they've gotten it off the ground, but it's not sustainable. It's not, they don't enjoy every moment of that business part because, again, like they think they have to do every piece. They think they have to be in every aspect of the business instead of just allowing everything to start being attracted to them because of who they are. And I think that's like that next journey. That was the next journey for me, was stepping out of, I got to go do and meet and be and be in the exact right place at the right time to meet the right clients, and instead just put myself out there and start attracting clients to me, which has been such a wild and interesting journey, and so counterintuitive to the logical mind. So how do people overcome that? How do people overcome this idea that they have to do and really focus on the being of who they actually are so that they can attract exactly what they need into their business?
This is a great question. For me, what came to reality for me was the more I got to know who I really am, the easier it was to let go of the doing. So what I like to tell people is that it's a curiosity and a discovery. So it's like getting curious around, okay, what's the intention behind what I'm doing? So, for example, I'm a podcast host. So if I'm going to record a podcast solo episode of my own, why am I doing that? Like, what is the purpose behind it? If the purpose behind it is because I want to get a ton of listeners and I want to make millions of dollars and I want to do all these things, is that really who I am? Is that really the driving force? Or is that what I was told from my perception of this reality, that that's what needs to happen? So it's understanding that we come from a higher place, a bigger thing than what we see in front of us right now. What's in front of us right now, we created, because we're always manifesting, always. We never turn it off. So what's happening right now, you manifested it to happen. For some reason, a lesson could be a lesson. It could be this is part of how you're going to connect with somebody later, which is the divine oneness, our universal law of divine oneness, where we're all connected. So it's like doing this one thing could be uncomfortable and weird for you at the time, but it actually introduces you to somebody you need to know 5 years from now. I have a friend, another entrepreneur friend. Her and I met in coaching school. We met 6 years ago in our coaching school, and we were partners, and we practiced on each other and all this just general health coaching. And we didn't talk for all through COVID and we just reconnected this last year, and absolutely huge shifts for both of us. And we're in a place now where her and I are actually talking and collaborating and growing and expanding together, which at the time 6 years ago was probably not the right timing. It wasn't the divine timing for it, but we needed to meet. So all of these things that are happening in our lives, understanding that it is already for a higher purpose, not for what's tangibly in front of us right now. And I'm like looking at my desk going, okay, I have my earbud case and I have my cell phone and I have my coffee mug. That's great. They're here like right now in this moment, but that's not the intention of them being here. Just like us, what is our intention of being here? And when you start to think about intention behind things, you think of things differently. So then now your business is totally different than what you think it should be.
Mm.
And a lot of people are looking at, I want to make more money, or I want to be known in the world in some way, or I want, certain things to happen, instead of really, what are you here for? When you go inside and you ask that question, why am I here? What do I need? What should I be doing? And I always meditate in the morning and I ask my spirit guides, what do I need to know today? Just today. I'm a business owner and I have projections and I have my quarterly, what I want to do. And I'm still doing the structured things that are required in this 3D world, but I'm asking my guides for today. So that if there's something on my to-do list that isn't in alignment, they will tell me and I'll just move it. A lot of times they move my calendar for me. So I'll have stuff on my calendar and I'll sit down and all of a sudden my day will start and I'll get somebody, hey, can we move that appointment to a different day? Sure. Because you know what? I got something else I guess I'm supposed to be doing. Being open and shifting. And I like to say that this aligns with the business model that we've been following for hundreds of years. People will say, oh, you need a business plan when you get started. Yes. Business planning is manifesting.
Right.
If you put that manifesting word in there, and traditional business people will be like, nah, has nothing to do with spirit. Like, what are you talking about? Yes, it does. It completely does. You're visioning, this is what I want to happen. Okay, now how are we going to get there? What would we like to happen? What if this doesn't work? You are putting the pieces in place, but you're not allowing the spiritual flow. I think if you align those two things and you say, okay, I'm going to be structured, but it's going to be in a fluid way. So I like to describe it as like a river that has edges. The water is not going everywhere, but it's still flowing, going over rocks and around things. And that is the masculine feminine balance that we should all have. And it's no different for a business owner.
Yeah, it's you've just kind of nailed it from my personal journey. Really, again, like this idea that the business plan is a manifestation or it's your vision board, like that is spot on. Because as soon as you start to, from a more neurological standpoint, as soon as you start to pinpoint, this is what I'd like to see happen, or this is what I'd like to happen in my life, your subconscious mind is going to start picking up on these opportunities that you probably would have just walked right by if you hadn't had set that intention of, this is the business that I would like to create. So your subconscious mind starts picking up on these things, and it feels as if you're drawing them to you, which that's a lot of what manifestation feels like. But in reality, all you're doing is recognizing things that were already existed. They were already there. They were already around you. You would have just looked right past them because 99% of your conscious experience is filtered out. The only part that you consciously experience is just such a fraction of everything that is happening around you on a constant basis. So if you can focus your energy on, this is what I'd like to create, well, then that's going to just start showing up. And if you set very, very strict, and this is exactly how I want it to happen, well, then you're going to eliminate the thousands of other pathways that you could have meandered down to get to that point, to get to that, whether it's, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to have a successful business, or I want to create change and impact in the world, whatever your intention is behind that business. If you concretize the way that you get there, there's only one way to get there versus thousands of different ways if you kind of leave it open. And again, you don't want to just be adrift in, a leaf adrift in the wind. Like, you want to have some intention, and that's where setting those goals and opportunities. And then sharing about, your schedule moving around. That used to bug me beyond when I was in my previous business. We set up a meeting and then somebody's like, hey, I want to change. And it's like, well, I only have this small amount of time. I can only fit you in. And it would just bother the heck out of me. And now when somebody moves something, when somebody wants to change a podcast, when somebody wants to move a meeting from this week to next week, I'm like, thank you. That's exactly where it needs to be. I'm so glad that you made that decision. And it changes the energy around how you show up, who you're being. Imagine if you come to somebody and you're just upset that they want to change a meeting, which is out of their control anyway, that's going to leave that different taste in their mouth than if somebody's like, okay, great. Yeah, let's do that when it's convenient for you. So I just enjoy the whole aspect that you have that you're bringing to business ownership, business leadership, and just it mirroring my journey that I've had as well. So it's really cool to kind of see. So you talked a little bit about manifestation and how that works with starting a business. So what are some of the tools that you help guide people to properly manifest, or to more effectively manifest the vision that they have into the 3D world?
I appreciate this question because I like to call it intentional manifesting, because we're always manifesting. One of the things is this is where the healing journey crosses over. If you are intentionally manifesting from a defended pattern, so I like to use myself because I'm the best example I can explain. Before I had my healing, I was thinking I want to manifest. So I want to grow my business. I want to get clients. I want to make money. I want to be sustainable. We're going to vision that, and we're going to do the thing. And nothing was happening because I was in a defensive pattern in my energy. Stuff was trapped in my nervous system. So when I was little, I was the youngest. My brother was older. He'd make fun of me. Normal kid stuff. I mean, this isn't like anything crazy. Normal kid stuff. He would make fun of me, and I would cry, and he'd make fun of me even more. And I didn't realize that this created a pattern for me to shove my energy down. So enduring pattern, it's Stephen Kessler's book, The 5 Personality Patterns, is what Somagetics uses as part of their training. And what it is you push your energy down. So you're very grounded. You're a person that's very grounded and you're very solid, but you don't speak up and you don't rock the boat. You don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to do certain things. So you stay in this safety zone. And what had happened is when I was 5 and he would make fun of me, and it really traumatized me as a kid, I didn't want to speak up. So it was scary. And I didn't realize that I had this pattern running. I'm a podcast host. Hello. I would not be having this conversation with you in this way right now had I not recognized that I had this happening. So my throat chakra is just like shut down. Like, it's scary to talk. Do not talk about yourself, Susie. Do not share your real life experience. Do not get vulnerable. You can talk about business all day long. Go ahead and talk about that, but don't bring in your own journey and your own personal who you are into this, because that's scary. That could be dangerous because you were made fun of when you were 5. And so part of the healing process is recognizing I'm not 5 anymore. Letting that little girl understand that she was okay to be upset. It's okay to be upset at 5 when your older brother's teasing you. That's totally fine. But I don't need to be that way now as a business owner. Being able to release that with my coach, being able to let that go. And now I'm on this podcast with you and I'm telling everybody I can think of, we have to heal to be good entrepreneurs. Like, I'm now like, this is my, and then now I'm like, oh, that's why I'm here.
Mm.
That's why I'm here, is to bring this message to the world of, we need to heal to be able to be who we are. We need to heal to be authentically who we are. We need to remove ourselves from, if you're a person who's like, I don't want to work for somebody else, then healing from those past traumas, healing from childhood developmental trauma, from anything, stressors over time is trauma. It doesn't have to be a main event in your life. It doesn't have to be anything like that. But our nervous system remembers, and there are certain patterns that we adopt as kids at different age levels. And that's what, on my podcast, I'm doing a series on this just to make people aware that we have these patterns running subconsciously in our nervous system, and we don't realize they're there until we notice and we're aware that, oh, there's I'm not sharing. Why am I not sharing my story? Why is it when I get around people and they start asking me things, I shut down and I just talk really surfacey? Like, what's going on there? It's actually a pattern that I've adopted as protection, and it's energy. And that energy just needs to be released. And then we can invite in that open heart chakra, open up my throat chakra, and be like, okay, now I'm going to talk from my heart, be able to move that through.
Are you seeking a path to inner peace and personal transformation? Check out my website, where I offer free weekly guided meditations designed to help you reconnect with your inner self and navigate your day with mindfulness. Whether you're new to meditation or looking to deepen your practice, our sessions provide a supportive space for growth. Join our community today and start your journey towards a more balanced and conscious life. Visit joegarner.net and sign up for our free weekly meditation. Find the link in the show notes.
Yeah, and that's what people connect with, that open communication, that when you're speaking from the heart, people listen, people tune in, people turn around and come over to you. When you overhear a superficial conversation, and it's almost in the background, you don't even notice it. But yeah, when somebody's speaking from the heart, you can feel that energy. And Joe Dispenza, people that talk about this idea that your energetic body can extend 9 meters away from you, and if you buy into quantum mechanics, then your energy is quantumly entangled with everything else in the universe. So you and I on this conversation have this kind of entanglement. We did a meditation before we started. We kind of cleared our energy and focused it on you and I and what this conversation was going to be, which quantumly entangled us. So we have this connection now. And yeah, like I don't think people fully understand that when you open up your heart and you've aligned your chakra system, you've aligned your energy systems, you become this powerful being. And that just correlates into being a better entrepreneur, being a better person, being a better, father, mother, child, any role that you're playing in life. If you can fully align yourself with the purpose that you have and the vision that you want to experience, then again, these things should kind of come into your life, these people, the opportunities, the places, you're just always right exactly where you need to be. So you kind of piqued my interest. I'm interested in this, like the personality patterns that you talk of, and how they play roles as an entrepreneur. Maybe you can share just a couple of them, not all of them, but just a couple of them, and how they affect the entrepreneur on their journey.
Yeah. So I want to say that you named a couple of behaviors earlier when we were talking that I was like, there's that pattern that show up. And one of them was your calendar. You're like, that used to bug me when people would move an appointment. That's a rigid pattern. That is someone who is like, everything has to be the way it is. That imposter syndrome, or having things perfect. They won't do anything until it's absolutely perfect. So they don't move forward because nothing's going to be perfect. It's always changing, and we're always transmuting energy. There's always stuff happening. And so if you put yourself in a box and you go, okay, I'm not going to start this venture until everything is in perfectly aligned and I have all of everything in the way it needs to be and everybody's agreeing, and then we're going to move forward. Well, then you're never going to move forward. And so that is a defensive part of that pattern. I do want to name that these patterns not only have defenses, but they have gifts that highly organized person who does an amazing job of keeping track of things. All of our financial people, bookkeepers, people who are analytical thinking, they're tapping into the gift of that. Now, when you're using the defensive pattern, it's because something you decided, your nervous system picked up on that pattern and it was easy for you and it gave you a result of feeling safe. And so the whole purpose of understanding these is to be able to do them consciously. You can be in a gift of them or you can be in the defense of them, but knowing that you're doing it in the right situation. There are times when we need to be defended. We need to take that. But are we using the right response to a situation? Am I speaking up when I should be speaking up? Or am I being quiet when I should be being quiet? There's an understanding there. So it's consciously knowing that we have access to these. So I named the rigid one, which is very structured. That is a pattern that's developed later in a child's development, so closer to the 7-year range, and also shows up in adolescence. You'll probably notice that with teenagers. They're like everything has to be a certain way. I need to be following everybody else. It all needs to, it's like very, very rigid. As an entrepreneur, that can slow you down. But the gifts of it are, hey, I'm always on time. I'm not late to meetings and I'm good with my clients and I'm paying attention to what's happening. That's a beautiful gift of it. But knowing if you're doing it automatically without thinking about it as a response, then you might be doing that from a wound, from something that happened that caused you to take on that particular pattern. So for me, enduring, I took that on as a kid, stuffing down my energy. I'm really good at coaching. One of the gifts is that we can hold space for people. Very, very grounded. If I'm talking to someone who's way out here and they're just like, woo, I can bring them in and bring them into a grounded space. But it's not so good for me when I need to speak up. So if in a trauma response or in a situation where maybe someone's talking at me or they're kind of overpowering me and I shut down instead of speaking up and saying, hey, I don't agree with you in a respectful manner, doing it healthy. So it's that understanding, what are you doing unconsciously, just responding as a nervous system response, and what are you doing consciously? So now I can have a decision. If someone's yelling at me, I can decide, do I want to just be quiet in this moment because maybe it's safer? They might be an aggressive person that I need to be quiet and not escalate things. Or are they a person that I confidently can speak up and say, you know what, I don't agree with you. I'm going to stand my ground here. So doing that instead of doing it as a 5-year-old who's being made fun of. So that's really where the patterns come into play.
Now, do you see you mentioned, bringing consciousness to the patterns that you're experiencing. Do you see through neuroplasticity that those patterns, those like effective patterns, can move towards a more unconscious or subconscious experience, and that you can kind of focus your energy on other patterns and eventually you kind of start to mold yourself into this subconscious being that is just always doing the right thing, saying the right thing, being in the right place? Is that a part of what you understand or teach?
Yeah, it's something I'm experiencing personally and also like to tell people to encourage them because this is over time. I've been on my healing journey aware for 2 years now. So I've been consciously aware of developing this. It's like a muscle. You have to practice it. So I like to use the example of boundaries. So as a person who normally wouldn't speak up, my boundaries got crossed a lot. It was like people would just do it and I'd be like, it's fine. Now I'm like, that's not okay. I can say no. I can say, let me get back to you with that. I'm not going to just say yes to everything. And that's really big for an entrepreneur who's just starting out because you want to say yes to everything. Of course you want clients. Of course you want. Now I'm like, no, these are the type of people I work with and it's specific and I'm okay with that and I'm comfortable with that. Well, that's the gift of the challenger pattern. So the challenger person is always in control and very overpowering in defense. They're like talking at people and they're telling people what to do and their way or the highway. They're the one that has the answer for everything. And that's not healthy. But if you do it in a leadership role and you say, okay, I have boundaries and I'm going to talk from my heart. This is how it is. People respect that. And then you have this boundary. So a lot of this is learning how to work in this world using all five. There's five of them, but using them in a way where you do respond. You respond and you start to respond subconsciously with, and I like to think of that as being more intuitive.
Right.
As you remove the defensive pattern and you release that energy, then the gifts of the patterns come through, and that's more intuition. So it's like having an intuition and really tapping into your higher self and going, in this situation, what should I be doing? And then you get that answer and you know how to answer it in a way that's more coming from conscious awareness, but also tapping into the divine. So you know, okay, this answer is collectively good for all of good. It's not just me in myself and my ego trying to do something.
Right. I think that's interesting that's what you call intuition, because as an intuition coach, that's what I teach people how to do, how to take this very conscious experience of tuning into your body to feel what it's feeling, to know what it's, wanting you to understand, and then turn that into an almost automatic, it's happening 24/7, 365. You are just kind of tuned into your, you call it your higher self. I would call it kind of your subconscious mind. You can kind of debate about what the difference is. And from my perspective, essentially what you're calling your higher self uses the subconscious mind. That's how it communicates with the conscious being, through the subconscious mind. Because again, if you were fully conscious of your higher self, then you wouldn't be in the 3D realm. You would be experiencing, from a fifth dimensional or sixth dimensional realm. So, the idea that we're always going to be tuned in and tapped in is kind of, I think, a little bit, it's just not the right way to view it. It's like, how can you tune into your intuition at the exact right times when you need it, without having to take 10 minutes to go meditate on every single question or every single response that you have? The more that you do it, the more that you tune in. I love that you have like a morning meditation practice. That's literally what I teach people to do. Meditate 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. And that's going to build that muscle so that there isn't this delta between when you have a situation or a decision that needs to be made and your intuition or your higher self or your guidance is coming in. That delta shrinks to 1 or 2 seconds versus, hey, let me think about this for 5 days and I'll get back to you, when I feel like I have the right answer. Because that's also not a very effective way to run a business if each decision takes you a day or 2 days or 5 days to make. So, again, I love that you're using and framing things around intuition, and that intuition is that connection to your higher self, your subconscious mind, and how much that benefits both you personally and all of your clients. I would assume the more that intuitive that they're able to be, the better they are at making business decisions, the better the business is going to be in the long run and in the short run.
Yeah, I love that. It made me think of tuning into your body is such a huge thing. And when you're running defensive patterns, your energy is in certain place. So leaving pattern people, their energy leaves. So they check out. Have you ever talked to somebody? You're like, hello, are you in there? No, they're out here. That's a pattern of defense. So understanding that when we're in our body, our chakras are open, then we do get into it. We can have those intuition hits. Like we can really feel it. I talk to clients all the time and they're like, I don't feel anything. They're running defense. Their energy is in a defensive pattern that they don't even realize.
Right.
You ask a leaving pattern person, so where do you feel that in your body? They'll be like, I don't feel it anywhere, because they're not in their body. They don't even know what their body feels like. So the first thing is, let's get you grounded. We're going to have you do simple things. This is me. I'm here. Like simple thing, because you can't tap into intuition if you're not even here. If you're constantly associated and constantly checking out. So these are some of the basic things that I help my clients with, because they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Once they're aware and they go, oh, I check out when I have to do this one task in my business. I don't actually, like, I'm avoiding it. I'm procrastinating, or I'm going and taking a nap, or I'm doing something else, or I'm scrolling on social media. Like, those are all leaving pattern things. Like, you're checked out. You're not focused. They're not going to be able to tap into intuition if they're not even here. So understanding what's happening, and then now let's get you to a place where we can release some of that and get you into your body so you can feel. The enduring, for me, stuffing the energy down, you're in your lower chakras. Like, you're in your root chakra so far that you can't feel. So you're not feeling your heart chakra. You're not feeling the rest of your body. So when someone would ask me, well, where do you feel that? I'm like, I don't feel anything.
Mm.
Are you
Yeah.
noticing? No, because I've defended myself so far in a place where I'm not even, like, you can't feel joy, and you can't feel, like, I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I wasn't, because I had shut down so far. And a lot of that came from being a medic in the army in Iraq. Like, I'm in a war zone and I'm treating people who are, could possibly die. So I am going to shut everything down that I know to be just functioning in that moment to do what I need to do. So I'm bypassing all of my own feeling to take care of the situation. So a lot of this is created in our life experience.
Yeah. And then it becomes a learned pattern. Your brain, begins to fire that way, and then it wires that way. And then before you know it, 7 years later, you don't have any feeling about anything. And you're wondering, why am I not feeling anything? And yeah, that's such a cool way to kind of frame it. And again, sharing your story helps people definitely understand that perspective. So, yeah, as we kind of, this has been a wonderful conversation. As we kind of get into the end, I'm always curious what guests think of or think about what's coming in the world as we continue to go down this pathway of healing, of becoming more aware as a species, as more and more humans start to feel their subconscious, start to open their chakras, start to connect with their higher selves. What does the world start to look like, and what does that feel like for you? Kind of being tuned into your guides. What are they kind of thinking that over the next couple of years, what is going to be happening on the planet?
So this really ties into my purpose and what I feel I'm really here for. And this was something that actually came through this morning is we're shifting from a slave or victim mentality. So instead of working for corporations, and for me, I mostly work with healthcare professionals who want to leave the healthcare system to do their own thing. Is when we open up to this understanding of who we are, we no longer are confined. And I know you and I talked about this a little bit, feeling more free when we're independent thinking. So we're no longer, it has to be this way, the way society boxes things up, systematized in a way that we do this, this, and this. Now it's like, oh, I'm here to help people who want to leave the healthcare system, to start their own practice, to do things their own way. I can just do that. I live in an RV. I can travel the country, and that's okay. And as long as we have the freedoms that we have now, that can grow. So as people wake up and they go, oh, I don't have to go to this 9-to-5 job anymore. Money's an energy exchange. So when people start thinking, I need a whole bunch of money in order to be free, that thinking is going to shift. It's more about energy. So like you and I talked about, we're connected. So when you start to connect with people on a community level, the community takes care of itself. The ecosystem of small business ownership is going to grow because we're helping each other. And we may not be doing it consciously. Like you and I are now entangled subconsciously and in this environment. So now all the universe is lining up things to bring things into our 3D world of what it is that we need to sustain ourselves to be able to keep moving forward. And that's just going to grow on its own. That's how we got here to begin with.
Right.
Is everything has evolved into what it is. So I feel like that's what the future is happening. People are waking up and they're like, oh, this is what I need to bring to the world. I'm going to do that. instead of I'm going to go sit at a desk for somebody else to make a whole bunch of money that we don't really need, because we don't really need the money, but we think we do. And that's a whole nother topic. But I like to say money's in circulation. Abundance is in circulation. So if we follow the natural laws, then as we give the law of compensation, as I give in service, in time, in opening my heart, in love, in everything, money is included in that because it's energy, then I get that back. And it's going to flow through me, not I'm going to have all this money and hoard it and like hang on to it, because that's just shutting off the circulation in life. And I feel like that's what we're moving to, as people are realizing there's a bigger purpose to us being here, and we're all in it together. And instead of the ego saying it's all about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think people are definitely opening up to the possibility that it's more than just them or their small family or even their, medium-sized community, that we are moving towards this more global society where we all realize that we're all the same thing. We're all humans. We're all in this kind of experience together. And the more that we realize that, the more that we come together, the more we're able to create just a better experience for that. So I always love, as things are shifting, we always talk about these old systems, these controlled systems, these systems that have been built over the last 100, 200, 300 years, and how they're kind of starting to come down. And there's new ideas, new businesses, new ways of doing things that are starting to come through. And I always find it very interesting. Like, is there ever a point, do you ever think that there's a point where we find this like harmonious balance between destruction and creation, and we don't have to go through these cycles where it's just a whole bunch of creation, the masculine coming through, and then we realize that we've created systems that are so structured and rigid that they don't allow us to evolve as a species, but that we don't go in the other direction where, there's no structure and everybody just has to kind of figure things out for themselves, and there's really no rhyme or reason. Like, there's no banks to that river that is flowing. It's just a stream of water kind of going every direction. So do you feel, or do you have any sense that is a possibility, that we could get to a point where we don't have to go up and down and ebb and flow, or it's a little bit smoother? Obviously, there's always going to be ebbs and flows, but for me, from my perspective, being a human, growing up in the 80s and 90s and then coming into the 2000s and 20 teens, it feels like it's just this massive climb all the way up, and there's just going to be a gigantic fall at some point, which is, I think, a product of just kicking the can down the road, it seems like. So how does that work for you? How do we not become the things that we were fighting when we were younger?
Honestly, Joe, I think it's what you and I are doing, and more people like us. That's where I really truly believe the coaching and the awareness piece. So I'm on my healing journey, you're on your healing journey. What we're learning is that it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be really, really this unsustainable thing that has this huge crash. We can live in harmony. And I think that the people in the coaching world that are following this spiritual healing path, we recognize the masculine and feminine. We need both. They need to be together. It needs to be cohesive. We do need structure, but we also need to have the free flow that we have. So it's not one or the other. And the more that we grow and understand this, we can help people. And I think that's my purpose, is bringing people from the healthcare industry, because it's very rigid over there, very protocol driven and everything. And that they're coming out of there and they're like, I can be a business owner. I can do whatever I want. Oh my gosh, I can't do that. Somebody will die. Like, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's nobody's gonna die. Like, we're good. And so I think it's people like us, like, we're being called to be like, hey, we're this safety net for people that are coming out, so they're not crashing and just out there, I'm just spiritual. I'm just gonna let everything happen for me. And like, that's not sustainable either. You have to have both. So I think we're in a time where all of us, say us meaning people like you and me and other coaches that I know and other people that are in the spiritual realm, that are like, We're here to help, to navigate that transition so that it's not a crash. We don't have this huge buildup and then this crash and a huge buildup and a crash. Like, we're smarter than that. We have all the knowledge. We know how to do this. And it's up to us to experience it first. And my guides they've been telling me this for like 6 months. Susie, you're an example. This is how it works. Do your thing and tell the world. Do what you're doing and tell the world. And I feel like that's kind of the mantra, and why I'm on your podcast really is I heard your podcast and I was like, I need to talk to Jill. It's like, we're on the same page. Like, that's what's happening, is like, we're connecting the beings that are meant to be here to help with that transition. We're all connecting now, and we're saying, hey, there's a better way, and we're going to help people, and we want to help people. And so we're stepping into these roles that are unconventional, that the normal people are like, what is that? And then the spiritual people are like, whoa, you have structure? That's weird. Yes, we have both. We can have both harmoniously. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big theme for me as I was coming into my kind of spiritual awakening and was learning different things. Was there's certain groups of human beings that are here because they have the information. They've experienced this transition from a more masculine to a more balanced world, whether that's in different lifetimes, different planets, from around the galaxy. Again, some people don't like to think about that, but if you believe that you're an eternal being that has experienced many, many lifetimes, then you have experienced different lifetimes on different planets, and they've gone through this experience before. And I feel like you bring that comfortability to your human nervous system, because when you're able to tap into your guides, your higher self, past life experiences, that kind of stuff, you bring that comfortability, that calmness into your nervous system as a human being, because seeing and understanding that everything that you thought was so stable and secure is about to change and shift and maybe collapse, that can throw you into that fight or flight almost immediately. That first time that you hear, hey, maybe the dollar is going to go bankrupt here in the next 10 years, people start to freak out, and then they start to react instead of respond. So if we can be there to hold, calmness, peace, to help them maybe see it from a different perspective, that the dollar collapsing isn't the end of the world, it's the end of a system that may or may not have been benefiting most of humanity. Well, then they can start to, okay, well, what's the next step? How do we where do we go from here? And I love that you're doing that with doctors. I think the medical system is prime example of a very structured system, was designed to create and make people healthy. And because the science has been progressing so quickly, that super structured aspect has kind of limited the effectiveness of their ability to heal humans, especially as we understand that a lot of diseases come from the thoughts that the humans are having versus these external experiences that, that somebody got a disease or somebody has a genetic predisposition to a certain circumstance. And what we really find out is it's not necessarily a genetic predisposition. It's a belief inside of their nervous system that they do have that predisposition, and then they manifest that. Like you said, we're always manifesting. If you have a thought that you have a predisposition to some type of cancer, you are most likely going to subconsciously manifest that cancer into your body. And the healing journey, I think, in the medical field is probably going to start to shift from, we need to give drugs and put them on protocols and stuff like that, into a little bit more of, okay, well, where does this problem stem from? Like, let's go into your past and try to understand, why do you think, you have this issue, and really start to work on it from, both sides. And again, I think there's a balance between that as well. You got to get somebody to a point where they can actually look inside. So if they're, deathly ill, you got to get them something that allows them to be able to function as a human being. And then from there, find the cure, instead of just treating all the symptoms until maybe some point they figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, and I love that because I come from an emergency response background. So it's like there are times when you absolutely need the medical intervention. Absolutely. Because our body is our body. Like it's going to do what it's going to do. If you bleed out, you're going to bleed out. Like you need to stop the bleeding for someone to survive. But on the flip side, we're also here for an experience and we're here to learn what we need to learn. And everybody involved. So again, coming from Iraq, I had survivor's guilt. Why did I survive and these other people didn't? Why did these people have to go through this horrible thing? And here I am living my life, moving on, but realizing that that's their journey. That's their soul's journey. They're in this lifetime. They've been in other lifetimes. And until I actually realized and had my Akashic records read, I didn't realize how much what you described so beautifully is that when you've experienced things in multiple places and then you come here, you have a different awareness around it. You have a different understanding. And I didn't know that until last year when I actually understood where I came from. And then I was like, oh, that totally makes it. That totally made all my whole life. Like all of a sudden I was like, okay, now I get it. Like, because I understood some of the places I've been, some of the things I've experienced, and now why it is that I'm here. And so combining that with the fact that we have the ability to heal, we do have the ability to transmute energy, that it's happening all the time. I mean, science is watching it in a microscope. I mean, when all the cellular structures move and shift and and they're like, stuff's mutating all the time. Yes, it is. It's all happening. But again, it's also the thinking behind it that's driving the driving force for a lot of it. And understanding that and using what we're here to have, our experience together in a harmonious way. Not we're going to vaccinate everything until we can't, we're no longer human and our immune system no longer is doing its thing, but we're also not going to ignore it and say, okay, we're going to just go out here and do nothing. Like there's a happy place. There's a good happy place in there. And I think we're all here learning what that is and bringing all of our experiences from it.
Yes, that happy medium. And from a political standpoint, I think people are ready for a happy medium instead of bouncing between two extremes, which again just feels like it's the opposite of what we need to be working towards. We need to be working towards harmony and peace and coming together and understanding each perspective and why that other person on the other side of the aisle has that perspective, so that we can understand, oh, okay, that's okay. Like I understand why you experienced that, but what if you viewed it from this perspective? What if you viewed it from another perspective instead of it just being, well, if you're not vaccinated, I'm not talking to you, or if you are vaccinated, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. And it totally goes back to that healing. Through my healing journey and me healing internally myself, healing that energetically, I now am able to see people from a more compassionate level. It's easier to let go of judgment and pride and all of those negative, lower vibration energies when you can look at yourself. Like we really do have to look at ourselves. And when we see it clearly, then it's like all of a sudden everybody looks different. Everybody then becomes a living soul that I'm connected to instead of a person that's different than me. They're all just souls out here. We all decided to come here at the same time. I just want to put that out there. We all decided collectively that we wanted to be here on this planet at this time doing what it is that we're doing right now.
I love that. I say that all the time. It's like one of the themes for me is, you decided to come here during this time, especially when people are so downtrodden with everything that's happening in the world. It's like, well, this was your decision. You didn't have to come to the earth during this time, but you chose to, and there's a reason why. Like if you get down to the bottom of it, there's a reason why you have come to the planet at this point, at this time, because you have a specific gift for humanity, for this experience, for the people that are living in this reality.
Yeah, and I just want to name, because I talk to people who are entrepreneurs, I talk to new business owners, I work with new business owners. It doesn't have to be just as a business owner. If you're feeling called where you are, just in the business that you're in. If you're working for somebody else, you're in a corporate business, or you're in the healthcare system, whatever that is. When you do your own personal healing, it radiates out to the people around you. You can make a difference wherever you are. I know you and I, we stayed on the entrepreneur side because that's what I do. But this healing journey and really opening up to being a spiritual being as we are in this world, still staying in our structure, does make a difference. All of us make a difference.
Yeah. Every little ripple keeps going out into infinity. And it's just a part of that journey, and it's a part of what we've all brought here to the planet. And I do love the idea that, it only takes a small percentage, 1% or the square root of 1% or 10%, depending on what number that you think. But it does take just a small number of people to create kind of this collective reality that we all experience to our energy goes out and affects that many people. And it can be used for positive, as in, we're trying to bring harmony and peace, or it can be used in the opposite, where it brings in divisiveness and fear among people. And it's just a small percentage of people. We just have to realize that right now we're in this weird transitional place where the most powerful people, the people that have the idea that they can affect the most people, may or may not have our best interest in mind. And there's a whole bunch of new people on the planet that are here that understand, okay, we are here to affect change and to bring in this new, more harmonious, more prosperous world. And we're doing it one step at a time, one podcast at a time, one communication at a time, one client at a time. And it's going to be beautiful to see how this kind of transition takes place over the next 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, the rest of our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Susie, this has been a wonderful conversation. I have enjoyed every topic that we got into. I really like that we went deep. We started out kind of in the middle, and we've gone all over the place. So for people who are looking for a little bit of business mentorship, especially if they're in the medical field, what's the best way to get in contact with you so that you can kind of get on their radar?
Yeah. So startingabusinesssimplified.com. That's my website. And then I also have Starting a Business Simplified podcast. So if you're just curious, I always like to point people to the podcast just to take a listen. And there's all kinds of, I have business owners on there that share their story. So it helps for inspiration. And then I also talk through, like I said, the series I'm doing right now is on the 5 trauma patterns and how the personality patterns affect you as an entrepreneur. I just finished the Universal Law series. So there's educational pieces to it as well. But that's the best way that they can get in touch with me.
I love that. Yeah, definitely listen to that Universal Laws series, because it understanding the universal laws changed fundamentally how I showed up in the world. So if you're unfamiliar with that, if you've never heard of Hermeticism or any of these like universal laws that exist in the universe, check that out on Suzy's podcast, and I'll leave a link down at the bottom so you can get right over there. So thanks again, Suzy. I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you again for listening to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, hit the bell to know when a new show comes out, share with a friend, and rate us on whatever platform you're tuning in from. It helps get these messages out to more people to create the collective shift in reality we are here to experience. Make sure you interact with the Q&A and poll sections of the show so I can continue to provide content you enjoy. Finally, check out my website in the show notes to become a VIP of Changing the Channel and join the shift that is happening.